Hello, and welcome to another Lute Society online intermediate lute lesson. As always, it's a pleasure to be giving this lesson. This year, being all things Dowland in the 400th year since his death, today we're going to be having a look at a piece by Dowland, one of his most famous and most iconic little gems, Midnight, or as it's charmingly entitled in the Margaret Board lute book where it appears, Mr. Dowland's Midnight. Immediately from the title, we receive a great deal of the information of the mood of this piece. Dowland is entering the imagery, or making use of the imagery, of the insomniac, melancholy lutenist who is unable to sleep, sitting up with their lute. As Burton points out, a melancholy man cannot sleep overmuch. And the lute and its association with nighttime, for this reason, is a very, very long association. As the Burwell tutor book points out to us, it is a faithful companion that watcheth amidst the darkness. So there's a lot of reference material, a lot of imagery here associated with the lute and nighttime. And Dowland here, as elsewhere in his output, seems to be making a great deal of that connection. Many of the songs in A Pilgrim's Solace, for instance, concern this kind of nocturnal identity of the lute. There should be a couple of copies of the score available in the video links, one unadulterated and one with a few fingering marks in it. It's worth pointing out that Midnight is a very short piece, only 16 bars, and it is very much at the, shall we say, early intermediate stage of playing. However, as with so many such pieces, it really rewards closer study. And there are, this is still the work of a genius, there are many very fine and very nuanced subtleties to be found in this piece, which make it very rewarding and very worth our careful attention. So with that in mind, let's have a look through the score. From the air, the very first thing, of course, should be to take a look at the score and see what information we can, and to have a shot at tapping out the rhythm of the piece. You'll see there's no time signature. We're clearly in a sort of duple time. I would be counting 4. And so the first bar I'd be counting 1, 2, and 3, 4. As always, we put the digit on the beat and on the quavers, and 1 eander, 2 eander, and so on any semiquavers that we find. And as that first bar tells us so kindly, we are automatically in Pavan territory. This is the iconic Pavan rhythm, and so we're very much in this Pavonine world, a stately, very often very somber mood, which is very appropriate for what we are aiming at. As we can also see directly from the page, we are looking at a very balanced piece of music. There's a perfect 4 plus 4, 4 plus 4. We have chunk A, divisions on chunk A, chunk B, divisions on chunk B. So we're seeing something in miniature, and we're seeing something very slow moving. Now, slow movement is the watchword of this piece, and there are a lot of tricks that Dowland employs in order to create this quite static, quite heavy and quite brooding atmosphere that we encounter in the piece. And they're very brilliant compositional techniques that he employs. Let's take a look and see what those are. Within the first bar, we have a great deal of information available to us. We know already that this is a Pavan rhythm, so we are thinking 1, 2, and 3, and. Now, the first chord that we encounter in this piece is an open fifth. We're in the world of what we would today call D minor. We have our home note and we have the fifth, we have no third in this chord. In other words, we cannot tell yet whether we are in major or minor territory. That information is withheld us until the third beat of the bar. And there's the third we've been looking for. This is a common trick for Dowland. He employs it in his preludium and also in his setting of fortune. Where, in other words, we have an identity for this motif as something that's associated with quite slow movement, expansive movement, and a kind of melancholy. And there are good reasons for this. The amount of information that we receive is spread out over the first 3 beats of the piece. In many instances, we know from the space of our first chord what our harmony is, what our landscape is, and that creates a sense of immediacy. Here, we're being denied that information, or it's being spread out so that we feel the sense of slow movement in the piece. The amount of information we usually receive in 1 beat is being spread out over 3. And this goes some way towards the, as I say, this static and slow moving atmosphere in the piece. As we come into the second bar, we'll also notice that we have 3 voices present to us at the moment. And the bass is tremendously static. It's really not going anywhere at all. We're holding this D for all of the first bar. This is an exercise in finger dexterity. And then in the second bar, we hold it for 3/4 of the bar, only moving on the 4th beat. And again, if we can hold this finger down, this is very effective for us. We very commonly see this happening where we take a finger away. We will lose some harmony there. It will also help us to stress a little bit the C sharp. Remember, this is our home harmony. It needs no justification to be here, whereas this carries some harmonic weight. It's a dissonant note and wants to be stressed a little. So all together we'll have this creates the first 2-bar phrase of the piece. Here in bar 2, I'm using a 4th finger on the top and then moving down to either 2 or 3. 1 and 4 is a very lovely spacing for tenths, and I do recommend it. I find it tremendously comfortable. Now in the 3rd bar, we'll notice pretty much a verbatim repeat with a small change. And this repetition of material gives us the sense of slow movement that, as I say, we are creating. So, economy of means, very little movement elsewhere. As we move into the 4th bar, what we encounter is a Phrygian cadence, where we have a stressed and released chord here. So press on the B flat and release on the A major. We very often hear it the other way round, but this is not elegant phrasing. We'll notice also here that we've encountered another voice. Throughout the first phrase, we have been playing in 3-voice territory. And when we come to the final chord of the phrase, suddenly we have a 4th voice introduced. which seems unusual. However, there's very good reasoning for it. In terms of our voice arithmetic, we can imagine that the tenor and alto voices, the inner voices, have been sharing the A that's been held throughout the phrase, throughout bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, and then in bar 4, sharing that B flat, and then splitting into a C sharp and an E. So the mathematics checks out. And there is a good reason for Dowland to include a fourth voice in that final harmony. More on that in a moment. As we encounter the divisions on this phrase, the first few bars don't really seem to warrant the name. There's only a change of one note. The inclusion of our, if you're playing 7-course lute, our low D, or lowest string. So again, we are creating a sense of depth, of space, and we're creating a sense of something very slow moving, very static, a sort of oppressive sense of darkness is being created using this total economy of means. Something else that's well worth observing in the first phrase, and indeed the second phrase, is that the majority of this phrase does not extend beyond the compass that we heard within the first 3 beats. It doesn't go much further than that minor third. This is still the highest note we've seen, and it's only in the very last bar, to take the divisions, that we see any moving outside of that third. Again, this creates a small compass for the first couple of phrases of this piece. Funnily enough, Howard Shore employs exactly the same technique in his music for The Lord of the Rings. If there are any fans watching this video, all of the themes concerning the hobbits are within the compass of a major third, or built around that compass. It's a small interval and it's happy, just like the hobbits, and it reflects the narrow horizons of their world. And here we're seeing something similar. We are being invited into a musical space which has a very narrow sense of compass. We're brought into a small, quite brooding world. We're not seeing wide musical horizons here. The division in the fourth bar of this section of A1, where we see a rising scale, traveling upwards carries with it some of the physicality of going up a hill, and therefore we can, in order to phrase this, we can slow up very slightly. And this will be very effective phrasing. Again, stressing the B flat in the Phrygian cadence. And releasing onto the A. Now, the reason for this 4-part chord that we have just resolved on is made clear to us when we look at the next section, the B section. Because what we see here is, again, a very common trick for Dowland to employ. In the first bar of this phrase, Dowland entirely omits the bass. We have only the alto, tenor, and soprano voices. And he'll employ this trick quite frequently. Think of it's very obvious from the lute song repertory. And if you have a listen to the 4-part version of Go Crystal Tears, there's a tremendously effective introduction of the bass only after the first phrase. The entirety of the first sentence, Go Crystal Tears, is given to us only by the high voices, tenor, alto, soprano, and it creates a wonderful sense of colour and contrast. And here we might be, as we see this trick employed by Dowland, the instrumentalist, but still thinking in terms of Dowland, the songwriter, the four-part air writer, we might draw a comparison between this choice and the effect that was being explored at the same time in the world of art of chiaroscuro, the use of dark and light in high contrast. We've certainly seen in the second phrase our darkest notes on the lute. And now we have a bar of our highest textures. So this seems to be a convincing description of what might be going on here. At the end of that bar, the start of the next bar, we see the reintroduction of the bass voice in on this G. The tenor and alto voices having joined forces onto the D. Now, as we move forwards here, overholding becomes the motto for this section. We, in an ideal world, will keep hold of the basses in this section. This B flat here, which is quite a stretch. An important note, as we move the first finger across here, take off the little finger, otherwise we'll find ourselves with too many voices being sustained. I personally, in the third bar of this section, this is bar 11, will be playing this chord using fingers 2 and 4. And the reason for this is in order to keep hold of a finger on this F. The alto voice is singing here, fa, mi, re, fa, mi, re. So we'll want to, if it is at all possible, keep hold of it. There's a slight bit of jiggery-pokery here, putting a third finger on the top. Again, notice the first finger getting overheld here. And here in bar 12, let's make this quite a throwaway cadence. We're not seeing very much harmonic information here. The melody is simply giving us re, do. So a very soft resolution and a very sparse harmony in the bass. So it doesn't warrant much of grandiosity. Now, a crucial point to make here is that we have just had the end of phrase, and the tablature C belongs to the next phrase, and sets us up for some really quite wonderful divisions. The shape of these divisions takes us first down and then back up. So if we may wish to phrase it putting a tiny bit of weight on the chords. Like so. Now this tablature A is the breaking of a pattern. This is worth remembering. We have, and then whenever we break a pattern, we create a sense of energy in music. And so here we can take that energy and use it to push us forwards into the cadence. And again, a very throwaway, light cadence here. I think this is about all we have time for today. So thank you very much for going with me, and going through this piece with me. I hope that this may give some ideas for us as we tackle the piece going forwards. As always, any questions, comments, thoughts, please do drop me a line. I look forward to hearing from you, and happy playing. And if you are of a melancholy, insomniac nature, may this piece bring a great deal of solace.